Hello again. Airplane etiquette. So I recently flew up to Sydney overnight to see Cats on our way home. Flight up there was fine. We flew Qantas. It was a pretty good flight. Cats doesn't like flying that much, so she was a little nervous. I was loving it. I love flying. Next day, saw her off in the morning. Later that afternoon, I came home. And I flew Jetstar, which is it's your budget airline. You know, no frills. You know, you have to pay for your own headset if you want one and all that sort of stuff. There's no complimentary food or anything like that. Very, very budget. Because, you know, I don't have a lot of money to throw around. I've got a lot of expenses come out with moving to the other end of the state and all that sort of rigmarole. So, had to fly the budget. But, you know, that's neither here nor there for this particular rant. The flight back was fucking miserable. It was a smooth enough flight. You know, we didn't have much turbulence or anything. But the guy behind me, his knee was constantly in my back, poking through the thin budget class economy seating. And this wasn't a tall guy either. He was no taller than me, and my knees fit with, you know, that much to spare between me and the seat. So there was no excuse for this guy's knee to be in my back the entire hour and a half flight. He was just sort of slouching back in his seat, poking his knees out. And I'm there banging on the seat, trying to give him the hint. But no, he wouldn't take the hint. So it became a battle of wills. I reclined my seat, which did increase my discomfort, but it also increased his discomfort, because now my seat was pushing into his knee. The battle had begun. Who had the greater willpower for being uncomfortable? Who was more stubborn? I'll give you a hint. I was more stubborn. I could feel him shifting and grunting and groaning in the back of my seat. It only took about 15-20 minutes before his will broke and he sat up straight. So I left my seat reclined for about 5 minutes more, just to sort of hammer home the hint and put my seat back upright. And the rest of the flight went without issue of knees and backs. Second issue, while I was dealing with this guy, there was also one of those sugar-high, overstimulated tweenagers in the seat directly in front of me. If you've never heard that goddamn term tweenagers before, it's a marketing term that's becoming part of our language. It describes the kids who are not quite kids anymore, but not quite teenagers anyway. You know, from 11 to 14, I think they technically market it, but, you know, tween really should only apply to 11 to 12, because when you're 13 you are a teen. I hate this marketing speak. I really do. It's like the word prosumer. Have you heard the term prosumer? You've got it's common in video cameras and things like that. You know, you've got your cheapo, mid-price to high range video cameras, and they're called consumer cameras, okay? And then you've got your super expensive, really fancy, really lovely cameras, professional quality. Then you've got this sort of middle ground where marketing decided they would call something prosumer, which just basically means it's not quite as good or expensive as pro, but far more than most people are willing to spend on a piece of technology. So it's only for the real boffins who can't justify spending the latest Sony DV camera. I'm on a tangent, aren't I? See, I was going along like this, and I was going to go in this direction, but then I went, "Wah!" And I fell right into another direction of a little side rant. And I'm trying to remember where I was in the rant before so I can get back to it. Tweenager. Yeah, so this girl would not sit still, jumping up and down in her seat. Even before we took off, she was sitting there talking to her little sister and brother, who were sitting in the two seats next to her, and joking about, I don't think they've ever been on a plane before. And being excited, being on a plane because you've never been on a plane before, is fine. And I was quite tolerant of it at first, because I thought, oh, okay, kids, first time on a plane, it is exciting, they're allowed to be a little boisterous. No worries. But she was jumping up and down and going, whoa! Pushing back in her seat, you know, imagining what the G-force would be like when we take off, because obviously someone had told her, yeah, push back in your seat and it's really great. She did this like 18 times, like it was still funny after the second time, to her siblings. So I'm sighing, and I'm thinking, okay, they're probably going to calm down once you're in the air, because nothing really exciting happens after you reach altitude. You just sort of fly along. The plane hums, the clouds go by. Nothing really exciting happening. So I was patient on. I waited till we're up in the air. Didn't stop. Jumping up and down, bouncing around, yelling, screaming, crying, laughing, futzing with the window shade, going up and down, and clack, clack, clack. Because it was one of those, it wasn't a curtain, it was one of those, plastic slidey ones. Clack, and it would go crunch, crunch. Every time she moved it, she was doing it, and it was really getting on my nerves. And for about 15 minutes, she was trying to work out how to put her seat back in the reclining position. And I was sitting there going, don't you dare figure that out. She's reaching down beside the seat, and she's reaching in front of the seat and around the arms rest, trying to find the release so she could put this seat back and annoy me even further. And finally a stewardess came along and was offering them drinks or a headset. Would you like to purchase any drinks? And I'm thinking, don't let this kid remember she was trying to recline the seat 5 minutes ago. And she did. And she asked the stewardess how she reclined the seat. I managed to catch the stewardess' eye. No. But of course stewardesses are paid to be helpful, so she informed the young teenager how to recline her seat, which she did with some enthusiasm. I'm glad I forgot my headphones and was too cheap to actually pay for the in-flight crappy headphones, even though they're only like $3. I had a note on me on note change. I didn't want to break the note. Because that means I didn't have my laptop out watching a movie or something. Because if I had that when she put this seat back, it would have knocked my laptop into my face. So yeah, my flight back to Hobart was an exercise in restraint. I'm kind of glad they don't allow you to carry sharp objects on your in-flight luggage anymore. Because if I had even a rudimentary weapon, I probably would have stabbed her in the ear. I'm not sure whether that would have been before or after I turned around and stabbed it through the seat into the guy's knee. And that's not all. There was also a baby, an infant, and I'm not talking about a toddler. I'm talking about less than a year-old baby. I was on the window seat. There were two people, the aisle, and then this woman with her baby. And I understand people have to get places, and sometimes they have infants. And they have to take these infants with them when they go places, which means sometimes taking them on a plane. And so I'm not blaming anybody for this, I'm just saying it's irritating. Because during the ascent and the descent, you of course get dramatic pressure changes as they adjust the pressure in the cabin. Most of us deal with this by chewing gum or eating peanuts or doing that stuff and yawning and trying to pop your ears so you equalise the pressure. Because it does get annoying. When you're an infant, you don't know how to do this, and you don't have the language skills to understand people when they try and explain this little technique to you. So, for 2/3 of this flight, this baby was screaming. Everyone around was being very patient because, like me, they understand that it's not something you can control. It's not like the teenager sitting in front of me can't exercise a little self-control. It's not like the business guy behind me couldn't have exercised a little self-control for the benefit of the comfort of the other passengers around him. Baby had no control over it. Baby's just doing what baby does. Mother had very little control over it. She was being a good mother as she could. She was nursing the baby and rocking the baby and doing all that sort of stuff to try and keep the baby calm and relaxed and not cry. But there's very little you can do. So nobody can control this, but it doesn't stop it from being extremely annoying when you're stuck in a cylindrical pressure tube flying 30,000 feet above sea level. Just another little puzzle piece to add to the mosaic that was the most miserable 90-minute flight of my life. And of course there was also the fact that I wasn't in a very good state of mind to begin with because I was already missing cats like friggin' mad. Catch you next time.